What's going on, guys? This is Trey. I'm here with Thomas. This is Forge Sports Media. This is our disc golf podcast, episode 15.
Made it to 15, and we've just made it back from our first Pro Tour event of the year at the Music City Open in Nashville, Tennessee.
Man, what a great time. What a great event. What an exciting event. We'll break that down. We're going to break down not just the tournament itself, but our experience. We got to be on the course. We had some really interesting, fun interactions. And so we'll break down what we liked about the course, what we disliked about the course, what we liked about the event as a whole, what we didn't like about the event as a whole.
We'll give you what we feel like is a really good breakdown if you were to have been at that event as a spectator.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe some takeaways. So I guess we can go straight in and
Let's
talk
do it.
about course design as a whole. If you have not already, we would like you to go and watch maybe a little bit of coverage, whether it's watching a Joe Miz post-produced round or going and just watching the entirety of the final round in particular, just because the weather was better during the final
It
round.
was so much better the third round. We weren't there for that one, but
That way you can have an idea of, say, what the course was like. We think it gives really good context, but we'll do our best job to break down when we're discussing holes, what we're talking about. So there were some changes, I believe, was it maybe 5 to 7 holes were altered in some way, shape, or fashion?
something like that. Yeah, there were, and they used some of the holes. They rearranged order of holes. I think hole 1 this year was hole 3 last year.
Right.
And things like that. And it seemed to create an overall improvement. I saw on social media that the general consensus was, while not everyone loved the course, everyone thought that this was an improvement over the silver event last year.
Correct.
And so overall, I thought the course was good. I thought the mix of open shots mixed in with some, tight wooded holes, it's kind of what you want from a top tier course, is you want to be able to challenge the golfer in all aspects of the game.
Right.
And so I thought that was strong. That was a strong part of the course.
The way I would put it is this course required really good placement.
Oh yeah, really good placement, and accuracy was absolute key.
Especially distance control in some areas. It's either I need to be a little bit short of XYZ conglomerate of trees, or I need to be way past it. I cannot put this sucker right in the middle. It's hole 18. I could be way off to the left and try to just throw some stupid shot to come in, or I need to be way past if I want to have a shot
to get to the birdie.
Exactly. And so you can't really be stuck too far in the middle, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, and sometimes that benefited some of the folks that didn't have quite the elite distance. I think,
Right.
just as an example, hole 2, I watched, some of the top guys. I know just one shot in particular. I remember Nico throwing long into the OB on that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like Nico crushes.
He does.
But then one of the best shots of the entire round we saw was by Eric Oakley.
That
Dude,
exact hole.
that same exact hole where he threw a crush, but he doesn't have the same distance as a guy like Nico would. But
Right.
But with his distance, that max drive was perfect.
Oh, yeah. And he really does have good accuracy.
Oh, for sure.
He was confident placing it out into hole 2. It is a hole that just almost the entire time teeters just a little bit left, just continues to push just a little bit left on a pretty firm angle, and then eventually just pushes straight in to the hole. And so you got to place one pretty straight down there at it. Otherwise, left has some pretty quick OB that if you, as a backhand player, if you're throwing if you're a right-hand backhanded player, we saw plenty of people skip into the left OB.
Yeah.
Or like you say, Nico, you push it way too straight. OB on the right-hand side of the woods.
Right. And so you, like Thomas mentioned earlier, distance control was key on this course. You couldn't just absolutely crush every single throw. You needed to be able to dial it down a bit. Even disc down, there were moments where you saw folks like Chris Dickerson reaching for a predator instead of a force on holes, because he needed to have that kind of control.
Yeah, which that was one of the pictures that they posted was him holding up his orange Predator, which is super fun. That's a fun disc. So signature holes for the course, Trey. You mentioned a specific one that this could be maybe a little controversial, but I agree with you in the fact that this is what will stick in our minds of what was a hole that really had some
teeth.
It had some teeth, and unexpected to us, I think it created a lot more separation than we anticipated.
Oh yeah, and I'll take credit for underestimating this hole. Hole 3. It was about 275 feet downhill, wooded shot. You just hear those things and it's like, well, shouldn't that just be a guaranteed birdie? No, because the line is extremely difficult. It's a very strict flex shot, I would say. Is the designed approach to the basket.
Particularly, you need like an overstable flex shot.
Exactly.
Nothing that's going to beat off to the right, have any chance of turning over.
Yeah, it required some unique shot shaping, not like unrealistic. It wasn't like the line was not there.
It got hit plenty of times. We saw, I think at one point, 3 people, at least me and Matt, saw 3 people bury that.
And then on car. And I'll talk more about Aiden Scott later, but I watched him park, like under the basket, park the hole within each one.
Right.
So it was definitely doable. But my thought was, well, even if people don't birdie, they'll get a par. It's short enough that they should be able to pitch out from wherever they land,
right,
and get a 3. That was my thought. We get to the course, and you watch players like Eagle McMahon and Paul Macbeth struggle on this.
Take huge scores.
Yeah, Eagle took a 6. I think Paul took a 5.
Emerson Keith took a 9.
Yeah, that was hard.
Yeah, and some of that comes down to just not playing the hole smart, going, for shots that just don't make sense in a time where you probably just need to eat your lunch.
Yeah, and so my thought was like, there's not going to be a ton of scoring separation. I don't know if this is the best hole, but then you see there was a lot of scoring separation. There wasn't a lot of pars. There were a lot of pars, but you saw, 13 birdies and just on average, that's the number I threw out.
Right.
Somewhere in the realm of a dozen per round.
And you would think that score separation typically is in reference to, you get a birdie, you're going to get a stroke on the people who took par. And that was more, if you even at some times take a par, you might be taking that. I think it was a 1/4 of a stroke on average. If you took a par, it played the hardest hole at least round 1.
And then it played a little easier rounds 2 and 3. But
correct. Well, actually, round 3, if we go pure average, it played the 3rd hardest. Played the number 16 handicap.
Got it.
Just barely over par. But that first round, maybe it's just people acclimating, but it played tied at the number 18 handicap.
Yeah, so it was a very difficult hole to play, but I don't think it was unreasonable, and it might be, I might be in the minority here, but I enjoyed it.
It was really fun to watch based on where spectators could be. You were watching the opposite way down the gap as it came into the green, and seeing a good shot come in as a spectator was awesome to watch.
Yeah, because you'd watch probably 2 or 3 other guys hit a tree somewhere.
Right.
And then you would see I think Holland Hanley's shot that we saw was maybe the most impressive, where she actually went past the basket.
Mm-hmm.
That was an awesome shot. But I thought that, when I think about this tournament, I'm going to remember that because it brought some controversy. It brought some electricity. It was just it was a good disc golf hole.
I would agree. Next, we've got number 4.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
It's a par 5. You play a shot that relatively straight, maybe teeters off a little bit to the left-hand side into, if you got the distance, you'll lead right into a gap of a very large tree on your left and right. Most people, which based on where they landed on shot 1, will throw a large turnover backhand shot over the top.
Over the trees, yes.
And will eventually peel right back off to the left-hand side to a basket that goes way uphill a little bit and then back over to the left.
Where it's tucked into some trees a little bit.
Exactly. But so par 5, it's the type of shot that if you really do have that distance, you could, in theory, take the eagle on. I wonder if I look at the stats on here.
Don't think anyone got the eagle.
Nobody took the eagle in round 3, and that would have been the round to get it.
Yeah, and
Nobody took the eagle, but it could have been done. But yeah,
I did see an eagle chain out turn into a double bogey.
that's it.
It was so sad. It was round 1, and he threw a really good approach, flashed the chains, went about 30 long,
Mm-hmm.
and then proceeded to 4-putt.
That's a tough time.
It was so sad.
But needless to say, and again, we'll get into kind of what we were doing while there, but especially as a spectator in like the general admin area, it was very easy to watch. You come off of a really fun green on 3 and immediately get to watch the guys go over and throw from pretty much the same spot that you're standing.
Yeah, and
Watch them throw 2 shots.
so you go from an extremely technical hole to a wide open bomb.
Exactly.
And it's great course design, and that provides the spectators a lot of variety right there in one spot.
Exactly. You want to talk about your next one, number 6?
Yeah, so hole 6 is a little harder to watch, but I got to watch it on coverage. I watched round 3 Jomez, and I thought that it was a very well designed hole. It requires, I think its ideal design is for the right-handed player is you throw a backhand shot into and then proceed to throw a forehand, and then you have a straight shot into the green. It's another 5.
Yeah.
And I think Yuli on Jomez was talking about how he thought it was one of the best designed holes in the course, just because it does challenge all aspects of the game, whether that is the lefty forehanded to lefty backhand, whether that's right hand backhand hyzer to into the anhyzer shot. Whatever you do for those shots is being tested on that hole in particular.
It is.
And there's OB everywhere and some tight fairways. And so I thought that was a very well designed hole. It was a little harder to see on the course itself for the spectator, but seeing it on coverage, I was like, that is a hole that challenges disc golfers, and that's what we need on tour.
We do. The next one on the list, and this is one that we watched a lot of golf on, and honestly could very well be our favorite as opposed to the one that will come next in chronological order, but it's number 15. It is a very, I say technical. It's not this like crazy. It is an open but slightly wooded par 4, probably 700 feet.
I think it was like 670. I've got it right.
Hole 15 is 777. It's a par 4, and I'll use round 3 as the benchmark, but it played barely over par. Played 0.2 strokes over par. Most people would play a spike hyzer off to the right-hand side because there's a first set of trees that they wanted to miss because you wanted to be able to attack. Whereas one time we got to see Eric Oakley absolutely drop a dime through middle, and he just got way more distance than everybody because he's taking a straight approach versus an angled approach up top.
Right, and that's, I think part of that is like, I don't know if Eric has that with the guys who he's playing with in that round.
He's playing with Shannon, Chris Dickerson, and Robert Burry,
who all crush. So not everyone was going over the top, but
that group did.
But in fact, if you had the power, that was the correct play because it took, for the most part, some of the trees out of play.
Correct.
And put you in a good landing zone to attack the green.
And the next shot, once you're out there in the fairway, I mean, I think I saw Gannon almost 2 different times up against this like tree off to the right-hand side, and he was having to throw pretty close to it, but you have to throw a pretty powerful shot into this green that's got OB about 30 feet, like right outside the circle past it, and even that.
And the trees on the right and also OB. So you have to throw a very technical flex shot.
But it's got to be low. You saw a ton of people turn something over, push it too far on the right-hand side, get bopped, and some got lucky and came out, some landed OB. I saw Caroline Henderson ending up on round 2 when she was playing with Paige, Rebecca Cox, and Holly Finley. Yeah, I keep getting that Holly versus Holland. It's like there's so much.
Yeah.
But she went and played and pushed too far on the right-hand side and had to take the OB stroke there. And that was not an easy comeback shot. Ended up taking the bogey.
That's tough.
But you saw some people get up there. A lot of people would end up short left, which still left you a little bit of room for a jump putt.
And as long as you avoided the trees, because if you went too early left, you were stuck in these trees that left you with a weird upshot that I watched players really struggle to get out of.
Right.
And so
the very next one, though, is a hole I think everybody looked forward to. Great for spectating, especially as it related to the next hole. It was a back and forth set of holes, hole 16.
It's electric. It was I think it was like 300 feet.
It's electric because if you got the ace, you won an electric guitar.
Custom made.
Little Gibson.
That would have been sick. No one aced it, unfortunately. A lot of people got close. I saw James Conrad literally chained out.
Yeah.
It was brutal. I thought he had it. And then
lots of people spike Kaisering next to the basket, just tombstone right in there for basically a tap in.
I'm gonna butcher this name, but Cynthia Ricciotti is it? Rashadi Ricciotti. She hit did you see she hit the cage?
I did not.
Yeah, she hit the cage, and that would have been huge. So there were several shots that got very, very close. But
again, if you were to watch coverage, I would hope that the video of this did the hole justice, but the hole went very downhill, proceeded to come back uphill, and it was on like what felt like a 45-degree angle, uphill away from the golfer. And some people, like Chris Dickerson, would play a straight shot at it.
He was throwing a putt.
Yeah. He was throwing like his Challenger OS or something like that. Or
whatever what he threw.
Like the white one. And then a lot of other people would throw right-hand side, big hyzer, so that it would just come crashing down into the green and stick.
And then even some folks, like Ezra Itterhold, would go forehand.
Really?
Down the left side.
There's tons of room on...
Oh,
yeah.
So it's like the hole itself was not very difficult. Like, I think if there was ever a hole for you and I to birdie on
it was the easiest hole every single time. I mean, I think what literally looks like almost everybody took a birdie on it round 3.
Right. It's like the only hole in disc golf Pro Tour history that you and I would maybe have a chance of birdieing.
How long does it say this hole is? 305. Yeah, we could get it. There's no question we could birdie. Whether we wouldn't turn it, that's a different question.
We'd probably double bogey it in turn.
Honestly, well, I would hope that we would only bogey it because you immediately get to go to the drop zone and then just go.
Yeah, I think I'd probably.
I'll eat my lunch.
I'll just eat my lunch, take the bogey. But
that was really fun, and the area stand was really good for watching hole 17. And maybe we'll get into some more of that. I think that's good on the favorite holes in particular. Trey, you want to talk about the most pressing issue, which is not the course's fault. It's not the course's fault at large, so there are pieces that are the course's fault.
Right. And the biggest thing was the first 2 days, it essentially did not stop raining. And just the way that the land was laid out, it just led to a lot of mud. We were slipping and sliding all over. As spectators, you could actually see did you see that on Jomez, my legs?
Oh, yes, I did. I did see the picture.
So there were
Trey's calves.
My calves made their Jomez debut.
While they were showing people's shoes being muddy.
Yeah, it was basically to show the conditions. And you see Matt and I you could see Matt's shoes and my calves as we were walking down. Like it's near the 18's green where the Fly Mart was.
Since
they used it as an example to show how muddy it was.
Yes, it's tough. Now we'll be clear. Mill Ridge Park is a public park.
Yeah.
Throughout the year, this is not a permanent course, and the course has not allowed the disc golf, or they haven't taken steps to make the drainage at the park any better. And the worst part when it like nobody likes walking around in wet grass. Like it's gonna make you slip and slide everywhere. It's not gonna be a fun time. Like you saw plenty of people with their caddies like holding umbrellas over, like rain, no fun. The walk between hole 16 tee and 16 green was atrocious from the moment we stepped foot.
That is true.
And now people have been practicing all week, and particularly the practice green was on the other side of 16's tee, way in the back, past like some of the player parking and the flying art, and they would be taking people in golf carts up to hole 1, which was back past the tee of 16, past the 18's tee, which was very close to number 1's tee. And so you've got a golf cart rolling through that area constantly. It's like every and pretty much every minute you see one come by, because tee times are 10-ish minutes apart. And so that creates a bunch of mud on the right-hand side, which was I say right-hand side from the tee side, the spectator walking side, which pretty much nobody cared. The other side became the walking side.
Well, and they took down a couple of ropes and they added some metal.
We call them the cheese graters.
Like cheese graters.
Matt said they're supposedly they're used in industrial settings, and so that you're not walking on like, I don't know, toxic material,
or in this case, mud,
which kind of toxic.
We did
appreciate my attitude.
Well, it's no joke, but we did appreciate they tried. Those did definitely help.
Yeah. So if the park were to make adjustments to drainage, adding gravel to that area, that could be fixed. And ideally, I mean, the last round looked like it was fun time. Like we didn't get either, but the weather was like wildly better. Now, not that the mud is gone at that point. You have to have a while to make that kind of mud go away or like dry up, but that's kind of all you can really say for what the weather was like. Some of the holes, this is the next piece on some of the negatives. Some of the holes weren't entirely viewable to spectators. Like I want to say it was a decent portion of hole 6. Like you were saying that you can't entirely see. It's real hard unless you've purchased a VIP pass, which totally the tour, if they're responsible for setting up the course, which I would say they have a hand in that,
right?
Versus the event, however those entities are differentiated, they need to make it desirable to buy a VIP pass.
Oh, for sure.
So, yeah, sure. Like I should allow there to be benefits, like getting to watch the card the whole time, walk through areas where you can't normally get to, but be able to like see a particular hole super well, or for it to be really difficult to watch it, that's kind of a tough time, especially if you as a spectator want to generically follow along.
Right. And yeah, I get like the VIP pass, being able to follow a card specifically and having that opportunity to be in like certain areas that the general admission can't, I totally get. But to not even be able to watch certain holes, like I think 8 and I know 8, like I never.
You didn't go over there. You could see 8. There was a little area where me and Matt were able to walk off to and watch, because we watched the tee shots for all of y'all. And then it was 9. All you could do was you couldn't see where the tee shots were coming from. You just saw this shot of 9.
So there were parts of the course that were impossible to watch,
or would take you forever to get to. So my particular negative, and as I'm editing this, I'll try to put up a picture of the layout, and I'll put a couple circles around the areas where I'm mentioning. The viewing of hole 4's first and second shots, going from there to the next one, there's a dotted line leading up to, on the map, in a couple different areas, but one in particular that says it's for spectators to cross. And every single time we attempted to do it, volunteers shut us down and said, no, you can't walk here, show me your VIP pass, which the map doesn't make it sound like you have to have a VIP pass to go from one general admin to the other. So rather than being able to go across the fairway and then back into the yellow line fencing, you have to walk a half mile around. at least in also terrible conditions, to go watch the remaining. And by the time you're there, that hole's over for the people you were watching.
Right. And so,
Big L.
yeah, we didn't like that. You need to be more clear with, like, if that was for VIPs,
Right, VIP.
right, VIP, and we would complain about it. Like, it'd be like, okay, that's a VIP benefit. I don't like it, but
Yeah. Now, one of them just did make sense why it would have been a spectator. The one in the middle, because there was one we were able to go to. There was one in the middle that he was mentioning that would have cut straight through a fairway. At what point would there be enough time?
there wouldn't be. So
But the one in particular we're referring to, you would have been able to follow along after some people took a shot, follow behind them, and then go back into the general admin.
right.
Wonderful. Doable. So, Trey, what do we got next?
I think the only other thing that I really was there were a couple of holes that I felt like were a little like gimmicky, but I think that's a minor complaint. I think the bigger issue for me was the fly marks.
Yes.
Which, like, don't get me wrong, like, that's not the reason you go to a tournament, but it is fun to have a lot of vendors and a lot of different people like there to like interact with and things like that. But the fly art left a lot to be desired.
Agreed.
There hurt very many of the major companies there at all. Like Foundation Disc was there, which was cool. Obviously, Lone Star had a big booth, which was right. And they
Totally.
I got to interact with some of the guys there, and like they were super helpful. I got my hands on the Benny.
You did get your hands on the Benny. If you're not already aware, Trey's real name is not Trey. Trey's real name is Benny.
So I had to get one, and it feels great. I think it's going to be a great throwing putter. But Discraft wasn't there. Innova wasn't there. Prodigy not there. Discmania. I mean, I can go on and on.
Yeah, and maybe I haven't been around. I mean, USDGC, I'm assuming when you were there, everybody was kind of there because it's not sponsored by one particular.
Well, it is sponsored by Innova, but it was, but then there were like 90 vendors. Right. And they actually let Discraft vend this year for the first time ever.
At
USDGC. So there's obviously some growth happening and like having other companies there. Mid Discs was selling discs, and the Whale Sacks booth was also there.
You had some non-disc related, health related vendors. Yeah, we in particular got to get First Form. I'll put this up here. We'll see if you can see that back. I don't know if it'll focus on there, but this is a stick of beef jerky that we got from our boy Dino. Dino, if by the off chance you're ever watching this is First Form. They're protein sticks there, and they're very tasty jerky. You want to do a little, let's do this. Did you have the spicy jalapeno?
Oh, I didn't get to have the spicy jalapeno. I had the barbecue, which was awesome. They also had protein bars and energy drinks. I didn't have the energy drink, but the protein bar, I had one that was chocolate peanut butter pretzel.
Yeah.
It tasted just like a Take 5.
Like a 12-5?
Like a Take 5.
Oh, a Take 5. I was like, what that is. I had the cookie dough. Dino hooked me up with a couple of this, which honestly, we're going to be real clear. It was kind of sick because I ended up not having anything else for lunch. I don't think that's great for my health if that's what we were eating. But
did it.
Another thing is the other vendors, especially on the food side, really not that great. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I didn't love the sandwich.
I thought the sandwich was pretty good, but that was the only option for most of the day.
I just think the bread was huge and the meat was lacking a little bit.
See, I'm going to disagree with you there. The bread was very tasty and the meat was pretty solid. And you don't like sauce, but the Dijonnaise was like pretty solid.
Okay.
But I get what you're saying. Like, and I wish there were more options. Like a Thai food truck came later, but like I didn't want to have that same sandwich or even a sandwich at all. Right.
And the Thai food truck was not there the second day. I don't believe
they came later the second day, much later. But let's try it.
So spicy jalapeno, First Form. Let's try it. You just immediately get that like classic beef jerky type taste.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Nice little bit of kick there.
Yeah, just a little bit, not so much because you do like spicy.
Yes, I love spicy.
I'm earning my spice tolerance over time.
Oh,
This is pretty
solid.
that is pretty good.
That's pretty tasty. 20 grams of protein.
That is and this is like a solid, like right after you work out. You worked out just a little bit ago and you get back in. Mondays were mine. Maybe I just need to do it right after work before we do this. But we might have to snag ourselves some more First Form. This is really good. And Dino was just awesome. Super personable. Absolutely hooked us up. They've got these protein sticks. They've got the protein bars. They've got energy drinks, which, from my conversation with him, he mentioned just are a cleaner option than even your more like mainstream Celsius, Alani type options. And so I had the, was it Orange Sunrise? I can't remember the exact name of the flavor.
It smelled like an orange creamsicle. Yeah, I had type. I didn't have any, but
that was really good. And honestly gave me the exact boost I needed at the time. I planned on holding it so that my wife and I could try it, but I was like, I am exhausted.
We were moving around a ton. So totally
that walk from hole 4 all the way to hole 5 was a really long walk.
We I don't know if you looked at your little steps. I think we put in about 10 miles a day.
Really?
It was a good bit. But yeah, shout out to Dino.
Shout out to First Form.
If they're based out of St. Louis, you should definitely check them out.
Yeah.
And then
they're a huge brand. Did you see their Instagram? There's like a 1.1 million follower brand.
Oh,
it's like, dude, First Form is not like a up and coming type operation. They're big, and so it made sense given how good it was, and they were hooking up the fans.
It was super cool, and they were like, when we walked up to them the first time, one of the guys that works for them was talking with Macbeth.
Yeah,
it was like they've got that kind of connection, and they're still interacting with the fans too. Yeah, one.
Yeah, they're huge.
They are huge, and they were actually staying at our hotel too. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah, they had breakfast like right next to us.
Wait, the guys that we ended up meeting was that there?
Yes,
I didn't realize that was okay. So that was the. I had not met him at that point.
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah, we didn't know them at that point, but I was like, I recognize those guys from.
Did you mention that?
Not to them, no.
Yeah,
but.
So let's go into some of the results.
I talked a lot about the tournament, not actually anything about the...
Okay, electric finish, even though you
didn't.
Simon Lazard birdies the last 8 holes.
From the chase card.
Absolutely unreal. The last 8 holes, that is a tough stretch leading in. 16, 17, 18 are definitely gettable.
Oh, for sure.
But leading into that, that's a tough stretch of holes.
The back 9 is the scoreable 9. I will give Simon that. But there are some, like you said, some very difficult holes. Getting 15 is not an easy task.
15's not an easy one.
And then down the
14 is not incredibly easy. It's not it's not wildly hard.
Right.
13 is the one that I think is pretty tough because you have to go over the top and then a pretty good placement shot down, or a good over-the-top placement shot, and then just an absolute lace down to the basket.
Right. And so to grab those last 8 down the line when everything is on the line is just, that's that clutch gene.
Yeah, and so Gannon Burr is at, I think Simon finished at 23, I believe it is.
Yes.
And Gannon is at 20 under par going into hole 16, pretty much parks the basket.
For 16.
Correct. Gets the birdie. Goes into saying, and again, I remind you, he has to birdie all 3 of those holes to go into a playoff with Simon.
Correct.
17, he goes, throws the forehand, it goes out left, peels back right, lands under the trees, and then skips OB. And then pretty much at that point, all of his real hope of going into a playoff are gone, and then he proceeds to miss the putt and take the gamble, you take the bogey.
So
and then he's pretty much out of it. Is out.
Did he birdie 18 then? He must have.
He did, I believe.
Okay, because I was trying to figure out how he got back to 21.
Correct. because he went to 21 on 16, back down to 20, and then back up to 20, or back down to 21.
That is right.
And so absolutely crazy finish. AB technically had an opportunity. He went pretty far and up to the right-hand side and then threw just an insane flex forehand. It was to almost get in the basket. And honestly, if he had something to turn just a little bit more, he was a pretty much.
I mean, he had the height right. He was chain height and just a little to the right. And so that would have been electric if he had hit that. You know,
that would have been nuts. And it's about high time that AB takes down an event.
And then the scoring was very interesting over the 3 rounds. You had like as the weather improved each day, you saw scores increase. So Ezra Aderhold and Luke Humphreys had the hot round 1 at was it a 7? It was 7 down.
Correct. It was 7 down, and then there were 9 people at 6 under par.
Right. But then round 2, Chris Dickerson shoots 10 down.
He takes, I believe, a 2-stroke lead, and everybody going into the final.
Yes, he does. And then
if you go to the live, it'll tell you that after round 2.
Oh, good call. Yeah, Chris takes a 2-stroke lead on everybody with the 10 down, AB shooting at 8 down that round. And then round 3, you had 3 guys break the course record at 11 down, one being Simon, and then Cole Riddall and John Willis, who was at 4 over prior to that round, and then gets in the cash.
Yeah.
And shout out to John Willis.
That is just nuts.
That's good stuff right there.
So it was a pretty electric event to watch. All over, just really fun to watch them. On the FPO side, Kristen Tatar just ran away with it round 3. I mean, like, just took it. There was some opportunity. Macy Veladiaz was playing well at the latter portion, but Kristen was playing just as good, and it was real hard for Macy to make any ground there at the end.
Yeah, so Kristen winds up winning by 5 strokes over Macy Veladiaz and Jennifer Allen. And
I think this is Jen Allen's first time in the top 5 since like 2021. They were mentioning, maybe it was just early 2022, but they were mentioning it, and I believe Jen discussed it in her Instagram post.
Well, that's exciting for her.
So it's definitely good for her.
She's a great player and had a great preseason. I remember she won, I can't remember which tournament.
It was Goat Hill and the Winter Time, or what's it? No, it was Goat Hill and Maricopa. I believe she won one month, or it's just that she
won. She destroyed everybody at, I think it was Goat Hill, but had not performed quite the same way going into the Elite Series events, and to see her get a second place finish was super exciting.
She said finishing tied for second is her highest Pro Tour Elite finish yet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
So, but the Disc Golf Pro Tour was mentioning it had been a long time since she had top 5.
Well, that's exciting for her.
Macy just play. I mean, of all events, it makes sense that Macy would want to
go out,
show out. Yeah,
to show out in Tennessee, the Tennessee local. Really played an awesome tournament overall. Was in contention until the very end when Kristen runs away with it.
Macy keeps the best attitude that anybody could keep on the disc golf course. Almost like the
good job, bad shot otherwise.
Several players mentioned I had a really good time playing with Macy.
And we've got to interact with her some. She ran a tournament a couple years back that
first one I ever played in.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, the Flex Start up there for Tennessee Stakes over at Frank Lorino.
Well, that's exciting. I didn't know that was your first.
The camera will probably overheat here soon, so you may see a little transition. But I'm just seeing we're rolling up on that 40-minute mark.
Oh, but
yeah, it was really, really fun. FPO coverage to watch, and honestly, it was really cool seeing those girls just absolutely crush.
Absolutely. One last thing about the tournament itself before we move to our points update from our picks. Calvin Heinberg's podium streak is still alive.
Keeps it up.
He grabbed the 3rd place finish tied with Gannon and Chris.
which that almost went away if who was it? If Chris had birdied
18.
correct, then Calvin would have lost, I believe.
Calvin would have come in fourth. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was worried about that for the sake of Calvin Heimberg podium or getting the podium, but then I realized all three of us picked Calvin, so it didn't matter.
Exactly. So from our picks last week, Matt was.
All right, we're back.
We are back.
So Matt picks up 8 points on on NPO specifically, the Simon winning, Calvin to place, and then he gets 5 on FPO for picking Kristen to win specifically.
And then you, Thomas, you get 3 points for MPO because you picked Calvin to place, and you get 3 points on FPO because you picked Kristen to place.
Correct.
And then I'll take 5 on MPO with Calvin, and then James Proctor grabbing the top 10. James Proctor is a cheat code for the 40.
He is a cheat code. Maybe it's in the future we
made a ban list.
go with the UDisc World Rankings
Potentially.
since they update after each event rather than once a month.
Yeah, maybe.
And with such a long, like the ratings are very long term. Like James could very well be outside of that for longer.
Oh, for sure.
Even though he is top 15 at least, more than likely top 10
in the UDisc rankings.
I don't know if in UDisc in particular, but he's definitely inside the top 30.
Let's see. Because Ricky is still number 1. Let's see. Yeah, Proctor's all the way up to 13.
Right. And so where you get the number 13 UDisc player to the top 10 finish.
But you could steal Cole Ridallen in the UDisc rankings.
You could.
Or Nico. Those are a couple of cheat codes for that.
They could be very good picks. So we'll contemplate that in our time off. But Trey also gets 3 for Kristen. And so the update is now Matt is in the lead at 25. I am in the lead at 24. You're Trey in the 24. Did I say also both of us in both one behind. And then Trey is in third at 13 points. So he's got a little work, but we've got a lot of disc golf ahead of us.
I'm going to have to stop picking Kristen Tatar probably.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but
I think
I have to start making some like wild picks.
I think picking Kristen as the podium is the way to go. That's what I decided to do.
Well, that's what we both did this time.
Yeah.
So we have a silver event this week. The Blue
Ridge Championship
at North Cove, which North Cove is like, we haven't gotten out there yet, but me and Thomas and our buddy Jackson have been talking about
we'll make it out there sometime in the near future.
Oh, definitely. But awesome property for disc golf. It's the future of disc golf.
You know who's going to take it down, Trey?
Who?
Calvin,
no?
the silver boy himself, taking down Texas Stakes. He's gonna go back-to-back silvers.
Okay, I like it.
And it's pretty solid pick. It's hard to get wrong. You're picking the highest rated player out there.
Oh, I mean,
the guy's consistent.
That's an obvious pick. I'm gonna make a little forge pick here for my winner.
All right.
This is some Carolina golf. So you need a Carolina man to take this down. This guy's been on the fringe of playing well in tournaments, and he has one blow-up hole. It's not going to happen in this event. Jeremy Coley. Big Jerm is taking down the Blue Ridge Championships.
All right. That's a bold pick right there.
What about FPO? Who's going to FPO?
Right, let me make sure I've got the list correct. Pam.
Wait, and Sandy Gast? That's a Pokemon. I mean, that's but we've got a good solid field here. Kristen Owen, Miss Gannon, Hannah Blomroos. Val signed up. We'll see if she's actually able to play. You got Holland Hanley, Evelina, who played very well this weekend. This is like a full.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid one. I mean, I would love to pick Pam Aflage,
Ranky,
but I think for myself, that's a tough one. I'm gonna pick Hannah Blomroos.
Okay, I like the pick. She's been playing some good golf. Again, this is some Carolina golf. This is
You gonna do it?
a course that I think someone like Paige Shue
Oh,
is going to very well succeed. So
she got it in her. She was. I really liked getting to watch Paige. So she's like that pound for pound distance thrower. With her stature, during some of the rain, she'd be underneath her umbrella, and you would have no clue she was there if you didn't just see her.
So under.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but she's so fun to watch.
She is super fun to watch, and she's a very impressive player.
You want to hit us with a quick disc update? I don't think we have anything in particular outside of a couple of names.
I will say a couple of names to watch out for. A couple Chattanooga boys in Charlotte, or I guess in Marion, North Carolina. And what I'll say is watch out for Joey Lutz and watch out for Aiden Scott.
All right.
But yeah, so some new discs. The major companies didn't have anything come out recently, but we do have some very interesting names. We've got. I'll have to go back to the disco page to make sure I get these company names right. So, Orbital Discs. Never heard of them. Don't know anything about them. The only disc that I know, and I'm going to have to get my hands on one, is the Deranged Squirrel.
That's just ridiculous.
The Deranged Squirrel. I'm going to look at it real quick. Oh, it's got a psychedelic squirrel.
It is a squirrel holding a nut with a lot of beams behind it.
And it's got flight numbers, 13.5 minus 3.1.
Pretty understable disc. That suckers go everywhere.
Maybe a deranged disc, if you will.
Yeah.
And the other one I wanted to point out was Giant Industry is putting out the Statue of Liberty.
We start putting out like monuments.
That's going to be their
historical places.
Yeah, the next one will be Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm throwing Mount Rushmore here.
You get one for each head up there. Some national forests on there. So
yeah, that's an interesting one. But that's all I had for new discs.
All right, Trey, hit us with your version of what we're gonna do differently this week with our ending segment.
Yeah, I'm taking over top 5, which we talked about it. It's not like I'm just throwing this at Thomas.
It's a dual effort.
A dual effort of the top 5, because it just, with us being able to go to Music City Open and for 2 days and interact with a lot of players and have just a lot of fun interactions on the course with each other, all these things. I had a top 5, and I got here. I was talking to Thomas about it, and it turns out our top 5s were
relatively similar
enough that we can.
Mine would be able to fit into yours.
So our top 5, and we'll go 5 to 1, as you usually do.
Mm-hmm.
Top 5 moments for you individually.
Correct.
At the Music City Open. And I want you to go first.
With my number 5, this is just, and again, we'll go from the smaller moments up to the bigger ones, is my number 5 is meeting Jesse from Bear Bite Disc Golf multiple different times. I'm just standing over at 18 and I'm just watching some putts go in, and I look off to my right, I look back and forward, I do a little double take, and sure enough, it is the Bear Bite Disc Golf. They're selling.
Yeah.
We didn't talk for long, but it was really cool just seeing somebody from disc golf social media that you don't really plan on seeing. I believe he's from Florida, and so him being all the way up in Nashville was not something I necessarily anticipated. So that was a fun little interaction.
That's awesome.
It seemed like a super easygoing, really nice dude.
Oh, most definitely. So my number 5 was this brief, just very brief interaction with the lefty himself, Nathan Queen. So Nathan was playing 16, and I watched him tee off, and then I was coming to meet you guys, because I was doing something else.
Right.
But then as I was coming around where it was super muddy there on the other side of on the far side of 16, I like got to a point. This was before the cheese graters were out.
Yeah.
And it's just mud. And I kind of got to a point where there wasn't like a little grass spot for me to like hop to. And I kind of just shook my head and just stepped in the mud, went down to my ankles. And Nathan Queen and Rebecca Cox are standing right there. And Nathan Queen's like, yeah, man, get it. And he was just like, it was just super like this like short interaction. And me, you know, I'm a Nathan Queen fan. So it's like, I'm a little starstruck, which is kind of funny. But it's like, oh yeah, lefties for life, bro. I said something stupid like that, and I told him I was pulling for him. But it was just fun, and it's like those unique little interactions that you wouldn't really have like in many other sports.
Yeah.
And so that was a fun interaction for me.
Good. My number 4, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but honestly, was this interaction with this Dino guy. He just super fun to talk to, but say what was definitely a marketing person in general. His goal is to like make you feel like you're friends now, regardless of we're probably never going to see this guy again. But Dino was super fun to talk to. He absolutely loaded me up on these protein sticks, on protein bars, and energy drinks.
Yeah, they hooked us all up.
It was literally just like, hey, you eat through all those, you need more, or anybody wants any, you just come over here, get as much as you want. It was just completely free. I saved myself a little bit of money on lunch, whether or not I should have with a bunch of protein-packed stuff, and ended up spending that money on discs instead. So there you go, a little compensation on that end.
Yeah, and so what I just realized is I don't want to spoil what's going to be really high on your list. So my number 4, I think, was going to be higher on your list. I'm going to change it.
Okay.
So I'm going to say my number 4 was the interaction with Erica Stinchcomb, actually.
Yeah.
So round 1, she doesn't show up. She has like, I think maybe the first tee time.
Yeah.
And her alarm doesn't go off. And she misses the first 4 holes and decides to finish out the round, which is really cool that she even did that. Yeah. But she's starting out hole 5 plus 16.
And that's a tough one.
That's a tough scene. She played the rest of the tournament pretty well, and like, I don't think she got into cash, but she was just super conspirated about it. And then I went to the Fly Mart where her and some others were, you know, some of the folks that are on that like Infinite, Clash, Thought Space, that kind of group, were selling discs. And I got to interact with her some, and she was just super helpful at explaining, like, I picked up a Clash Mint, and it was super helpful. I like told her what I was looking for, and she like was super helpful in like saying, hey, I think that this, I was looking at one disc, and she's like, no, I think you want the steady mint because the softy is going to be much, much straighter. And so I just really appreciated how open and easy she was to talk to.
Yeah.
Wound up buying a disc with her stamp on it.
There you go.
So it was a good time. So shout out to her.
Shout out to Erica. My number 3, 2 brief interactions with this person, or actually 1 brief interaction with this person, and then another was just kind of like noticing this person. But Greg Bars.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so we're going to start off with day 1. And were you there when we saw him at first? We were just walking over. It might have been literally the moment we got there, is we're walking and watching some people, and Greg Barsby is on his walk from 15 over to 16, which anybody could walk along with at that point because it was just a general admin walking space. But we go over and we like see Greg, we're like, Greg! And Greg looks over and he's like, you guys having a good time? I'm not having a good time because I'm not playing good, but still having fun, you know? And so he was just fun to talk with. And then the secondary was at the Fly Mart after his round 2 had ended. He is double fisting beers at the Fly Mart, which was such a Greg Barsby moment.
That is
he looked like he was having the time of his life.
Oh, I mean, he always is.
It's just talking to, maybe he knew these people, but just what to us seemed like random fans, not other pros. So he was enjoying being off just with people.
Absolutely. And that's just his personality, which is great for the sport. So I did really appreciate that interaction as well. For my number 3, this guy actually sought out our interaction. It was really cool.
Want to know?
Zach Melton, who we were just walking by. He didn't play the tournament, but he was there. He's got an injury he's working through, but he was still there hanging out near the Fly Mart. And he notices Matt's shoes because he was wearing the Power T shoes.
Yeah, those orange with a little bit of checkerboard, I believe, on one side.
Right. And Zach goes, I've got those same shoes. They're a lot cleaner than yours, but I've got them.
Because we had been walking in mud all day.
And we proceeded to go and chat with him because we're from Knoxville. He's a big UT fan. He's from East Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to have a good conversation with him, but it was just neat because he drew us out.
Right.
It wasn't we noticed him. We're like, oh, that's Zach Melton. That's super cool. And we were just going to keep on our way. But he took time to point something out so we could go and kind of enter into a conversation.
Right.
And that's the cool thing about disc golf is you kind of see that a little bit of everywhere where the sport is just, it's big and not everyone's going to come and sit down and have a chat with you.
Right.
But it's small enough and the fan base is so, it seems almost tight knit with the fans where interactions like that can happen pretty easily.
Right.
And Zach's just a super personable guy. So I really appreciated him doing that and just taking the time to chat with us.
Yeah, that was definitely a good one. My number 2 is just our interaction at the foundation table with Robbie C.
Oh yeah.
We get over there and we had gone over in particular because Brody had mentioned that they were doing some various sales and stuff. And so I wanted to go see what they were doing. I ended up buying this hat right here, $10.
Not a steal.
For $10. I mean, normally if I wanted this hat, I'd be buying it. And if I wasn't buying a bunch of other stuff, paying shipping for it. So I was like, $10? Yeah, I'll buy that hat. And in that moment, it's me, Trey, and Matt there. And we get to talking to Robbie, who's just sitting there in a lawn chair. And we just get talking about disc golf, talking about the Creator Cup, and what it is, and the fact that they need people with more distance and stuff. And we're just having just good old fashioned conversation at the table. And that man is way bigger than I thought he was.
She is he was only an inch or two shorter than Brody.
I know.
I could not.
And he was pretty
yet broad, just not.
Yeah, but he seemed like he could have been a swimmer if he wanted to.
Or a professional disc golfer.
Right.
That's the route that he wanted.
I just pictured him being a 5'11" guy, just a little bit skinnier. He seemed like he had those really fast twitch muscles, which he does, but much taller and bulkier than I anticipated.
Which was super cool. And Robbie is kind of involved in my number 2 as well. So my number 2 was I got to caddy for Aiden Scott. Which was super cool. Round 1, we had last week on the podcast, we had thrown it out there hey, we would love to caddy. We would love to be super professional, work on whatever you need, and just be there for you as a caddy. I think it's important for the sport. And we wound up reaching out to Aiden, and he was more than willing to let me caddy for him round 1.
Yeah.
And dude, shot lights out.
He did.
He shot 5 down, which was 2 strokes off the pace for round 1.
He did so while being cool as a freaking cucumber.
He had 1 bogey all around and was playing with Brody Smith. And, Brody's a big name. This, Aiden's a younger guy. He's 17, 18. And he's just, like you said, cool as a cucumber. No stress the entire round. Just played clean golf. Made his 1 mistake and just rebounded from it super well. And got to play round 2 with Ricky Wysocki, Calvin Heiberg, and Nico LaCastro.
Which unbelievable.
Which reasonably, his dad wound up caddying for him rounds 2 and 3.
Right.
Totally understood. Definitely would love to have my dad on the bag. But I got to have that interaction with him, and he was just super relaxed, cool to talk to, easy to caddy for, and we just had a great time. Interacted with him more after his second round, and I've gotten to interact with him just as the weekend went on, and just a super cool guy. Got to interact with Robbie because of that.
Right.
Got to have a fun little interaction with him on Saturday when he was he came up to me and was like, "You've got a fun card today."
Yeah.
And I was like, Well, he kicked me off the bag, and he was like, "You better tell him that y'all had a good thing going." I was like, but so it was just a good time. You got to watch Brody Smith play. He didn't have a great round, but it was still, he's one of the guys that you're seeing out most in public, like on YouTube and things like that.
Right.
The more notable and noticeable players on tour. And so it was really neat to get to that opportunity to interact with Robbie C. But honestly, my favorite was getting to interact with Aiden, because he was just a super cool guy. He's a guy that we are going to be seeing on tour the next year or two.
Yeah, he's a young guy, has a lot of potential.
Finished tied with Paul McBeth.
Really?
Yeah, he tied Paul McBeth.
That's pretty sick.
It was sick.
That's a good one. My number one, and this started out as because Trey, and we had mentioned this up to this point, for that reason, is that Trey was caddying round one, and so Matt and I were really doing more of the exploring the course by the time we got there. We spent a couple hours on the course prior to him starting to caddy, so we were watching people start off, watching the first few holes, and then me and Matt explored the rest. And as we're walking back, nearing the end-ish of the day after watching Trey and Aiden a couple different holes, we go on hole 13, and we walk into this area that we don't think we should have, and we see a putt get made from the backwoods far. Didn't know who it was at first, and nobody else in earshot, just start clapping. Nobody around, and it's Eric Oakley that rolls through. And then I look down and just like to myself, flex like this right here. And then I look up, and Eric's past the basket, and he's looking over, and he's going, oh, right back at me. And then proceeding the rest of the round, we followed him the rest of the round, and every time he would hit a good shot, he would look over and he would flex at us.
And I got to interact with that some the second round when he was on third card, because that was the card we followed a bunch.
Yeah.
And so I got to even participate in that. So that was a great time. So Eric Oakley this might be a hot take, might be one of the best. No, this isn't a hot take.
Yeah.
He was one of the best ambassadors for the sport. He is so personable. He was thanking fans. He is promoting discs. He is doing all the things right.
Yeah.
When it comes to promotion of the sport, and he is going to be one of the reasons the sport continues to grow.
I mean, I bought I say it is obviously the cookie that I bought was not like an Eric Oakley cookie,
right?
But like I bought 2 Clash discs, one being the Tour Series Spice,
which I already had one,
right? And I got that one in the Wonder Bread, which I was pumped for. And then I got the Glow cookie. But the other piece of that Eric Oakley interaction, the piece that, other than getting a photo, which I remember too, I'll toss that up here. Go to our Instagram to check the photo out. Me, Matt, and Trey flexed with Eric in a photo after round 2. But Eric hits a branch on an upshot of hole 15, and he goes down and he says, F that branch. Like out loud, everybody starts laughing. And then he, from 35 feet, just drains a jump putt. And he goes, suck it, branch. And everybody just was losing it. This is round 1. It was so...
He is a showman for sure. He is good for disc golf.
Yeah, fun dude to watch. Super nice guy. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah, Eric was great. My number one, gonna be sappy and sentimental. It was being with you and Matt all weekend and getting to enjoy it with you guys. You guys hadn't been to like a major disc golf tournament before. Jackson and I had a great time, but I was super excited to go with you and Matt.
Yeah.
And so we made some good memories, got a lot of good videos, took a picture with Eric Oakley.
Good one.
I got one
with Scott.
I got one with Aiden, yeah. And so it's just an overall great experience.
Big fan of the Music City Open after this year, and we will definitely be back next year.
Oh, absolutely.
Or, I mean, barring scheduling as I try to finish it, Trey will not be making it, but I will more than likely be at Champions Cup for 2 rounds, hopefully 3 if I'm lucky. It would more than likely be around 3 and 4 if I was there.
Those are good rounds to be there for, man.
Well, we'll be excited if I can make it out to that property. That's a fun one, especially because I wonder if, like, because there's 2 other courses on there, if, like, you could go out and play disc golf.
Surely you could,
I
right?
would think that would be one of the pulls of it, like, making it out there.
Yeah,
Because
right.
the disc golf is fun to watch, and it is fun to play on the 2 other courses. So, this is our longest podcast. We've hit almost an hour and 10 minutes here. So
We broke the hour. We finally did it, which is cool.
this should be the one. So
Oh yeah, thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for listening. We'll have some fun stuff coming up.
we'll hopefully we always say this is a shorter podcast next week as it'll be 1 week out from Champions Cup, so we'll have a lot to preview, but we won't have a lot to recap. Whereas since it's a Silver Series event, we'll recap the small stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But thanks for listening, and we will see you guys next week. See ya.